go to work.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Deadpool 2 post-credit scene explainer video. Hopefully you've had a chance to see the movie. If not, careful for spoilers. There are multiple post-credits in the film. Make sure you stay through the entire film. Technically there are 5, but really it's like one big post-credit scene with 5 different parts. So if you hear people talking about multiple post-credit scenes, they're really talking about this one big scene with a bunch of different parts to it. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the Deadpool videos. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff posting this weekend and giveaway stuff that I'll explain at the end of the video. But Cable has a time travel device. Everybody knows about that from the comics. Time travel, big source of comedy. It gets burnt out when Cable uses it for the last time to save Deadpool. In the first post-credit scene, you see Negasonic fixing it, then giving it to Deadpool and telling him, saying, "You better not misuse this or Cable will kill you." So of course, Deadpool does the exact opposite of that and starts using it, going back to quote-unquote fix the timeline. So these other 4 scenes are essentially different scenes with him jumping around to moments, some of them getting more meta than others. The first one is of him going back to save Vanessa, who gets killed earlier in the movie. He kills the person that tries to kill her with a piece of cutlery. So it's just this really funny moment where he saves his girlfriend. There are a lot of people arguing whether or not this is canonical. If it's in the movie, then it's canonical, even if it's a post-credit scene. It's meant to be a funny moment, but yes, you see it on screen, it's canon to the timeline. So I'll explain that when it gets a little more complicated with these other scenes too. So the next scene is of him jumping back in time to right before Peter dies during the film and convinces him to go back to his normal life. He saves Peter, but does not save any of the other members of the team that have died thus far. I don't think we need to talk about every single character that dies during the film during this video, just ones that are relevant to the post-credit scene. So if Peter comes back during the X-Force movie, it's going to be some funny explainer, but I think this is them saying that he's not going to be a member of the X-Force team that Drew Goddard is doing for the X-Force movie. But the next scene is where we get really meta here, so we'll talk about timelines and what's canon and what's not canon. So he jumps back to the events of Wolverine Origins when the Deadpool version of himself during that movie, the mouthless, weird head Deadpool, is fighting a younger version of Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, shoots him, then says to frame, "Just cleaning up the timelines," and you see Wolverine from behind a little bit. So it's just weird seeing Hugh Jackman in this scene, but it's not Hugh Jackman himself starring in it. It's just them reworking some of the footage from the Wolverine Origins movie, so it's mostly new Ryan Reynolds inserted into what's going on during this. But at the end of the movie, it sort of explains how Hugh Jackman isn't actually in the movie, they're just using his likeness. He gets a special thanks for allowing his likeness to be used during the film. So this way, they don't completely break the Logan timeline because he's supposed to have died in the future, so this is jumping way back into the past, considering that Logan is kind of ambiguous about the timeline and what happened and what hasn't happened. But because this is happening within the Deadpool movie, you can treat the events of Wolverine Origins like they're canon, although really it's just one in a couple really big fourth wall break post-credit scenes. So that's why you're probably hearing people say that Deadpool 2 has some of the best post-credit scenes of any kind of Marvel movie, including Infinity War, although there'll be a lot of internet arguments about who has the actual best post-credit scene. The final post-credit scene, and possibly the most meta because it jumps into another universe, is the Deadpool character traveling back in time to 2011 into a room where the actual Ryan Reynolds is reading a script for Green Lantern, getting ready to sign the contract. The younger version of Ryan Reynolds says to himself, "You're in the big leagues now, kid." The camera cuts to the script, it says Green Lantern on the top of it, you hear a gunshot from the distance, and then blood splash on the front page. So it's basically Deadpool killing Ryan Reynolds before he can sign the contract for Green Lantern, preventing Green Lantern from happening, quote-unquote, fixing the timeline. So it's almost like he's fixing the end of Wolverine Origins, just so many things we could say about that. But also, I think probably the funnier one is him preventing himself from starring in Green Lantern. So if you've heard people talk about bringing back the most notable joke from the first Deadpool movie, the Green Lantern joke, but doing it better, this is what they're talking about. Doing it to the nth degree and putting Deadpool in the DC universe, or in real world, technically, depending on how you want to think about it. It's just doing Deadpool fourth wall breaks the best way possible. So while I will say that Infinity War probably has one of the coolest post-credit scenes this year, one of the coolest Marvel MCU post-credit scenes ever, I'll go so far as to say that the Deadpool post-credit scenes are just as good, but obviously for a very different reason, for being so funny. Going for a very different kind of reaction than the Marvel MCU post-credit scenes, which although they have funny moments in them, are treated more seriously. But talking a little bit more about how the movie treats the timeline and the way they treat the X-Force characters, the reason why I think they use them the way they did is because Drew Goddard hasn't started writing the X-Force movie yet. They said that he won't even start doing that till later this year, but they didn't want him to be shackled to what they were doing with this movie, so while Deadpool is going to be in X-Force and it'll be a funny movie, it probably won't have the exact same tone as Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds did say it's a pretty safe bet that X-Force will wind up being R-rated, but a lot of that doesn't get determined till really late in the edit after they've finished shooting the movie and doing special effects and the MPAA starts evaluating it. But if you think that Deadpool is just this parade of pop culture jokes, fourth wall breaks, and a lot of R-rated action, imagine that X-Force dials back a little bit on the wall-to-wall pop culture jokes and dials up a little bit on the Infinity War scale of big action set pieces, because it will be a big team-up movie. But the whole idea of the ending of Deadpool is that Cable uses up his last remaining charge to save Deadpool, so they're basically on the same team now, although they're not like best buds. It's not like Cable is going to go around hugging everybody all the time now. Ryan Reynolds has talked a lot about Deadpool 3, whether or not they're actually going to do it, but the writers did say that they have ideas, so it sounds like they're planning on making a Deadpool 3, and it'll fit somewhere between X-Force sequels. They were talking more specifically about dealing with Cable's origin story in the techno-organic virus and what that means for the Deadpool universe, because that gets into larger Strife, Mutant Liberation Front, Apocalypse stuff, and they haven't really dealt with that in the Deadpool universe yet. That's been mostly main X-Men timeline. But per that X-Men scene in the X-Mansion, Deadpool is within the timeline of the current team of X-Men. You can make guesses on when that's happening in the timeline relative to Dark Phoenix and X-Men Apocalypse in all the first-class movies, but it sounds like they're going to dedicate Deadpool 3 or one of those future sequels to Cable's backstory specifically and get more into that. Most of the high-level people involved with the franchise, be it producers, writers, or the actors, think that Disney is just going to let them do their own thing, so I would be willing to bet that not a lot of their original plans for Deadpool will get changed. They just allow them a little bit more freedom with the Marvel MCU characters in potential future sequels. But that's still on the drawing table right now. We'll talk about that when we learn more about the Disney-Fox deal. There were so many crazy Easter eggs and cameos and deleted scenes that we need to talk about. I'll do videos for all that stuff across the weekend. My next video will probably be my spoiler review, so be sure to go see the movie this weekend, and then just let me know in the comments which other Deadpool videos you want me to do next. So because the movie is still relatively early out, if you want to talk about anything spoilery, please use spoiler tags in the comments. But like I said, there is a giveaway going on right now for the Black Panther Blu-ray. All you have to do to enter that is be a subscriber and leave a comment on the video. I'll announce a winner when I post my Deadpool spoiler review tomorrow. So while you wait for everything, click here for my non-spoilery review, and click here for that Infinity War Eternals scene. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.